They thought the furry thing chewing on wires was just a dumb camp mascot. The Geltac strike team came down silent, fast, and cloaked in heat-canceling mesh. 12 in all, each twice the height of a man, dripping in bioorganic armor that hissed and flexed like muscle. Their orders were clear: neutralize the forward human outpost at grid point 6E and retrieve the tech caches before reinforcements arrived. Human outposts, after all, had become increasingly effective at disrupting Geltac's troop movements across the sector. The High Command suspected a new form of battlefield AI. This outpost was small, remote, isolated, the perfect target. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that the humans didn't post guards that night. No sentry drones, no watch rotations, just a single quadruped with shaggy white fur curled near a fusion barrel, asleep with its tongue out and one eye half open. Lifeform scan confirms only one organic inside the perimeter, hissed Geltac's commander Urath, its voice clicking through the translator mesh. Minimal risk. Commence entry. They moved in fast, sweeping past the perimeter walls like shadows in the wind. The camp was oddly quiet. No heat signatures from the prefab bunkers. No movement. No sound but the distant whine of wind through jagged rocks. Private Dracek stepped over a discarded metal bowl smeared with something brown and sticky. He sneered. Primitive eating habits. Sergeant Claus crouched beside an open crate, scanning its contents. Human rations, protein-heavy, burnt meat scent, traces of artificial bacon. A quiet woof echoed across the yard. The Geltacs paused. One by one, infrared lenses locked onto the small form standing in the middle of the compound. White fur, short legs, a metal ID tag clinking against its collar. It stared at them with one droopy eye and a head slightly too large for its body. "What is that?" whispered one of the soldiers. "It appears to be the organic," Urath growled. "Insignificant. Neutralize it." Private Dracek raised his plasma spear. The dog vanished. Not blinked, not scurried. Vanished. Then something heavy collided with Dracek's face at supersonic speed. His armor cracked open like an eggshell, and the Geltacs dropped, limbs twitching. Urath roared and fired blindly into the air, sweeping the compound with heat pulse shots, turning tents into molten slag and scattering gravel. "Perimeter breach! Stealth unit engaged!" But there was no stealth unit. There was a blur that moved in zigzags no Geltac's reflex could track. A blur with fur, a blur that tore into Sergeant Claus's back and ripped out his respiratory gland with surgical precision, flinging the organ like a toy across the dirt. Something howled. Not the dog, one of the Geltacs, and then another. Urath's internal command feed disintegrated into static. The HUD blinked erratically. "Disruption field detected! Countermeasures offline!" Then silence. The last thing Corporal Thurn saw before his skull was crushed against the water tank was a wagging tail. The creature, if it could be called that, moved like gravity didn't apply to it. It wasn't just fast, it was disjointed. It would vanish behind one bunker and reappear above another, as if ignoring spatial logic. Its teeth gleamed unnaturally white. It grinned as it lunged. By the time the main human force returned 2 hours later, the camp was eerily peaceful. Smoke still curled from half-melted shelters, and the scent of plasma scorch marked the ground in sick arcs. But there were no Geltacs alive. 12 alien bodies were scattered across the compound like dolls torn apart by a bored child. The white-furred creature lay in the sun, belly up, tongue lolling, tail thumping lazily. Captain Rourke dismounted from the lead transport, eyes scanning the wreckage. "What the hell happened here?" Sergeant Vega leaned in, brow furrowed. "I think they tried to raid the outpost." "Where's the squad?" "No squad, only Koba." They both looked at the dog. Koba looked back, tail wagging once. Rourke stared at the carnage. "That thing?" "He's not a thing," Vega said. "He's a good boy." Later analysis drones would try and fail to explain how a 30-kilogram canine had torn through one of the most elite Geltac strike teams. There were no nanoweapons, no experimental implants, no signs of external control. Just a dog with an attitude problem and a deep hatred for anyone not giving him beef jerky. The only footage recovered from the incident was from a single helmet cam, half melted, that played on loop in the mess hall for weeks afterward. The final shot was of Koba leaping from a rooftop with a Geltax lung in his mouth, eyes gleaming like miniature suns. When news of the incident spread, the humans didn't downplay it. They broadcast it, edited it, gave it a soundtrack. They called it the Camp incident. The Geltax had another name for it. Whispers spread through their ranks about a ghost beast that laughed as it killed, a predator that did not hunt for food or war, but for sport. Something unleashed by the humans as punishment for trespass. They feared the humans before, but now they feared what humans kept. Recruitment into human military camps spiked. Everyone wanted to meet the creature. Most were disappointed to find an ordinary dog lounging in the sun, licking his paws. But every now and then, if a new recruit threw a ball too hard or said the word Geltax too loudly, Koba would freeze, head tilt slightly, and let out a growl so low it could be felt in the spine. The command began rotating him across different forward bases. As for Koba, he didn't care for the attention. He didn't wear medals, didn't pose for photos. He just wanted three things: food, naps, and the occasional Geltax to maul. And he always got what he wanted. In orbit above the contested zone, the Geltax high cruiser Drenthal hummed with restrained tension. Inside the command chamber, Admiral Krozek leaned forward, mandibles clacking in irritation. Before him, the hollow table projected the aftermath at grid point 6E, 12 Geltax corpses, no human casualties, and one unidentifiable quadruped heat signature with anomalous readings. Not a weapon, not even enhanced, just a dog. "Run it again," Krozek barked. The analyst cowered, antennae twitching. "Sir, we've replayed it 17 times. The only surviving footage confirms that no human was present. Just this, Koba." The Admiral's breath hitched. "You expect me to report to the Grand Strategist that our elite strike team was butchered by a Terran pet?" The analyst didn't respond. No answer would help. The Geltax were not unaccustomed to losses. War was a science, and in science there were failures. But this wasn't a failure of tactics or intel. This was humiliation. Ritual armor shattered, honor medallions smeared across the dirt like discarded trinkets. One operative's femur had been used as a fetch toy. They'd found it embedded in a plasma battery like a spear. Worse, the humans knew. Krozek turned toward the communications pit. "Deploy the Skrelig pack. I want the camp flattened, burned. Every trace of that creature eliminated." The bridge went silent. A dozen officers stiffened. "Sir," one said carefully, "you're requesting orbital bombardment." "Over a dog?" Krozek's voice dropped to a growl. "No, I'm ordering vengeance." Back on the surface, Koba wasn't thinking about vengeance. He was thinking about the leftover sausage links under the mess tent fridge. It was 0900, and the sun beat down on the relocated forward base like a giant heat lamp. Human soldiers were doing what they did best in peacetime: fixing things, breaking them, and betting credits on how long it would take for someone to accidentally detonate the wrong storage crate. Private Keller was digging a trench beside the latrine, grumbling. "Why am I doing this? Why not use bots?" Corporal Mendez looked up from polishing his pulse rifle. "Because the bots are all busy calculating how long we'll last once the Geltax figure out how to clone Koba." "Clone him?" Keller laughed. "They couldn't handle one." The dog in question lay belly up in a patch of dust, snoring gently. His fur was matted with dirt, and someone had strapped a small armor plug to his back, complete with the words "Bite me" scrawled in marker. Koba didn't seem to mind. Mendez tossed a ration bar towards him. Koba caught it midair without opening his eyes. Lieutenant Harrow, grizzled and sleepless, emerged from the command tent holding a mug of what might have been coffee but smelled closer to melted paint. He paused beside Koba and gave a small nod. "You're a menace," he muttered. Koba farted and continued sleeping. Then the alarms blared, not the perimeter ones, the orbital ones. The base scrambled into motion instantly. Soldiers dashed for cover, throwing on gear, locking down crates and barking coordinates. Someone screamed for the anti-air crew. Another slammed the emergency lid over the fusion core. And over it all came the shriek of descending fire. The sky cracked open in 3 streaks of white, not bombs, pods. Impact. The ground convulsed. 3 shock waves rippled across the landscape, flattening tents and flipping a supply trailer onto its side. Dirt geysered into the air. Static filled comms. Screams followed. When the smoke cleared, 3 Skrelig had landed. Skrelig were not infantry. They were purpose-bred shock creatures. 3 meters tall, plated in acid-resistant hide, their limbs fused with gravity hammer tech. No finesse, no hesitation. They were dropped to destroy. The first Skrelig landed amid the motor pool. 2 mechanics tried to run. One was crushed by a single step. The other was thrown 50 meters through a wall. The second monster emerged by the medbay and began tearing through reinforced bulkheads like paper. The third turned directly toward the command tent. Mendez dove for the pulse turret. "Get to cover!" Harrow cursed and tried to rally a defense line, but the base wasn't built for this. It wasn't a bunker. It was a pit stop with tents. Koba opened one eye and stood. He didn't bark, didn't growl. He just looked at the closest Skrelig, the one stomping toward the command tent, and tilted his head. The monster paused. It actually paused. Then Koba moved. He sprinted low, fast, tail straight as a missile. A shockwave burst out from where he launched, flipping a nearby crate. Soldiers hit the dirt. Some thought it was an airstrike. Some thought it was their last moment. But Koba didn't head toward the creature. He vanished under it. The Skrelig reared back, swiping at air. Then something exploded from its fanade. Koba emerged with a chunk of what looked like spinal regulator wiring clamped in his jaws. Sparks flew. The Skrelig howled in digital agony and collapsed, its internal gravity hammer frying itself in a cascade of blue arcs. Koba didn't stop. He was already moving to the second. The creature turned, trying to reposition, but it was too late. Koba launched onto its back, spinning like a cyclone, claws tearing at metal, chewing through sensor clusters. The Skrelig tried to roll. Big mistake. Koba leapt clear, and the creature landed on a crate of spare fusion batteries. It detonated. Chunks of armored flesh landed across the mess tent. The third Skrelig finally noticed. This one was smarter. It deployed a kinetic field, surrounding itself in a shimmering bubble of compressed force. Koba skidded to a halt. He stared at the field, sniffed once, then slowly walked to the side. The Skrelig tracked him. Koba walked in a circle, tail up, casual. The monster turned to match him, confident now, safe. Koba stopped behind the generator pile and barked. It was one bark, one command. From behind the stack, a small object rolled forward. A ball, old, chewed, stuffed with lead. Someone had rigged a plasma grenade inside. The Skrelig's sensors tracked the motion. Too late. The field dropped to assess threat velocity. Koba kicked the ball. It hit the Skrelig square in the face and went off like a sunburst. By the time the smoke cleared, the base was half ruined. But it was intact. The soldiers stood slowly, bloodied, bruised, alive. And Koba? He sat calmly, tongue out, tail wagging. Mendez limped toward him, armor scorched. He just took out 3 orbital shock monsters. Keller whistled. And I was going to give him a bath today. Koba sneezed. The comm crackled back online. High Command barked demands. Harrow walked to the mic, voice hoarse. Base 6E reporting under attack. Repelled Skrelig strike. Minimal losses. 1 defense unit active. A pause. What unit? Harrow glanced at Koba, who was now licking his paw. Unit name Koba. Status hungry. The Geltax command fleet orbited silently above the shattered moons of Theta 9, its engines simmering like molten ore beneath blackened hulls. Inside the War Council chamber of the Drenthal, a dozen officers hissed through mandible and membrane as Admiral Krozek finished broadcasting the third failed assault footage. Static framed the last seconds of the Skrelig pack, their armored bulk twitching in the dirt, their reinforced chassis torn open by teeth and raw velocity. The council sat in silence. They sent monsters, Krozek said slowly, and monsters were not enough. General Varnix, oldest among them, leaned forward, spines clicking. What kind of beast can dismantle elite shock units? The creature is small, weak in frame. It has no projectile weaponry, no genetic enhancements, no coordination with the human squads. It doesn't even follow orders. Krozek nodded. It doesn't need to. A new voice, cold and ancient, buzzed through the chamber as the lights dimmed and the central pillar lit up with biosigils. The grand strategist had joined the feed. The humans did not win with a weapon, the strategist said. They won with an afterthought, an accessory, what they deem a pet. The council trembled. The grand strategist continued. This means one of two things. Either the creature is not a pet, but something far worse. Or, he paused, humanity is not showing us everything. Back on the ground, Koba had become something of a myth. He'd been reassigned again, this time to Outpost 9G, a mountainous firebase clinging to the cliffs overlooking the Varn expanse. The men there were seasoned, quiet, used to losing squads in the ravines below. When Koba arrived via transport shuttle, they stared in disbelief at the small, furry creature who waddled down the ramp with a half-eaten ration bar hanging from his mouth and 3 metal dog tags clinking around his neck. They didn't laugh, not anymore. Captain Briggs gave him a small salute and pointed to the corner of the command tent where a custom dog bed had been set up beside a weathered holomap of enemy activity. Koba sniffed it once, sat down, slept for 9 hours. That night, the enemy didn't come, or the night after. Then the third evening arrived. The base radar pinged something unusual, a Jelt-hack ship entering low orbit, but not cloaked, not evasive. It was broadcasting on every open frequency, a universal signal translated into 71 languages, including English. It said, "We request an audience, one-on-one, no weapons, no humans, the beast only." The message repeated, over and over. Captain Briggs blinked at the screen. They want Koba? The base fell into a nervous silence. Engineers stopped working. Gunners stared at the clouds. No one laughed. Private Santos cleared his throat. What do we do? Koba was already standing at the ramp. The clearing was 6 kilometers east of the firebase, flat and exposed. The Geltax had landed a single shuttle, sleek, black, and humming with energy fields. There were no visible weapons, no squads, just a circular dais lowered onto the cracked dirt. On it stood the grand strategist. Koba approached alone, his paws patting softly across the dry ground. He stopped at the edge of the dais and sat, his eyes locked on the towering insectoid figure. The grand strategist studied him. You are a contradiction. Koba licked his nose. You move like void light. You kill without cause. You respond to nothing but instinct and desire. You cannot be trained. You do not command. You are not even sapient. Koba scratched his ear. The Geltax shifted. Yet the humans follow you. They shelter behind your chaos. They elevate you. They send you in place of ambassadors. And it is not because they fear you, but because you are, the strategist's voice faltered, a crack in the otherwise fluid buzz of his speech. A message. Koba stood. The wind picked up. The strategist lowered himself, limbs folding in what resembled a kneel. We understand now you are not the threat. You are the threshold. Koba barked once, a low, deep bark. Behind him, the ridges lit up. Dozens of hidden outposts came online, plasma grids igniting, rail turrets shifting, and targeting systems acquiring lock. The humans had been listening, watching, waiting. The Geltax had never seen a single dog so carefully escorted by an entire war front. The grand strategist rose. We will retreat, not out of fear, but out of comprehension. He stepped back toward the shuttle. If the leashless one is their pet, what then are the masters? The war didn't end overnight, but it changed. Geltax forces began avoiding human camps altogether. Territories previously contested became lopsided. Geltax supply lines thinned. Communications fractured. Desertions began, and slowly, inch by inch, system by system, the humans pushed forward, no longer fighting for survival, but escorting it. Koba remained at the front, passed from base to base like a living myth, his fur never brushed, his food bowl always full. Scientists tried and failed to explain his feats. Generals tried and failed to replicate his effect. But those who fought beside him never tried to explain him at all. They just whispered his name at night and slept a little better. Years later, the statue stood in the center of Terran Victory Plaza. It wasn't made of marble or bronze. It was scrap metal from old Geltax warships, melted down and reforged into the shape of a tone with matted fur and tired eyes. A tongue stuck out playfully from the side of his mouth. A dented ration bar sat under one paw. The inscription was short. Koba, he didn't fetch, he finished. And across the stars, in the systems once ruled by Geltax, there remained only one law. Never raid a human camp, even if you see just one, especially if that one is asleep, shedding, and chewing on a sock.